On today's podcast, we'll be talking with Concord head coach Darren Shepherd. This is Mark Holcomb, joined by Kirk Brown with the Football Coaches Corner podcast. Today on the podcast, we're happy to be joined by a coach who has worked his way as a high school head coach at age 22, then an assistant at two outstanding programs, and is now the current head coach of a storied program here in North Carolina, which is Concord High School. We'll be following Coach Shepherd through his career on the podcast, as well as mixing in a little offensive philosophy. A recording of our podcast will be available through the podcast vehicle of your choice, as well as our YouTube channel, which is Football Coaches Corner. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you like what you hear. Coach Shepherd, we appreciate your time and welcome you to the show.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me.
All right, Coach Brown, I know that you guys go way back, so I'm going to let you introduce Coach Shepherd a little bit, and then we'll get to our Q&A.
Yeah, it's good to have Shep on. Shep's a guy who was a college teammate for several years at Averett University, and a guy that was always there with me. Played receiver. Was a special teams guy all over the place. So we were in the same meeting room a lot, and hung out in the same clique of guys, and just really great teammate. Great student, great football player, and I was really excited for him to kind of stay in the area, and get into football. So. Really excited to have you on, Shep, and just some things want to talk to you about personally, kind of your journey, and then, like Coach said, getting some football. So, obviously coming from South Florida, making the move to Virginia, going to school, how has your journey shaped you, high school, college, and then now in your professional career as an educator?
It shaped me just by, like you said, where I'm from. I'm from South Florida. Born and raised, my mom and dad, they have a house in Pembroke Pines. That's probably the southernmost city you can get in Broward County, just for the Dade County line. Was crazy to think of. I actually ended up going to two high schools when I was in high school. Went to a public school, which was a community-based school that bus kids from all over the county, all over Broward County. Did that for 2 years. As a high school kid, felt like I got pretty big for my britches as a sophomore, starting on varsity my freshman year. Started playing some varsity ball, and I transferred high schools to a more prep type of school, where kids basically go there to make football a career. Playing it in college and wanting to take that as far as they can go after that. So, I pretty much made a choice when I was about 16 years old that I wanted to be around the game of football for as long as I could. It took me to Averett University, where I met my now wife, Lauren Shepherd now. She was Lauren Williams when KB knew her. But yeah, so moving here, is definitely made me a lot tougher. I haven't been back home full time since I left to go to college. So I had to grow up and figure things out on my own, with the help of a lot of people here in the state. That's why me and my wife haven't left. Everything's been great, but yeah, that's how it shaped me. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get this out of the way. South Florida, you got to be a Dolphins fan.
Oh yeah, 1,000%.
Dang right. All right, yeah. This is my favorite guy already. I like
yes,
him.
sir. Yeah, I don't find many Dolphins fans up here. Go figure. My principal is a Dolphins fan, and I found out in the interview. After the interview, obviously, but yeah, it's not a lot of us up here.
Well, my quick story sidebar. I went to my first Dolphins game in Miami last year, and it just so happened to be the Tennessee Titans.
Oh no!
Game. Awful.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I'm about to go back.
I hate that was when. Yeah, actually, my aunt probably lives, let's call it 10 blocks from the stadium, and
wow,
I was probably about 7 stoplights from it, down at University. So like I used to live very close to Dolphins games. I've probably been to maybe six or 7 in my lifetime. So
I'm 0-1. I'm 0-1 right now, looking for a win next year.
But hey, not to digress, but growing up in Miami, but not a Miami fan, right? Florida State fan.
I don't like University of Miami.
So see, that's how Shep and I got along to begin with.
That's right. He's a Florida State guy. Yeah,
that's right.
Both my parents went to Florida State. graduated there. Godfather went to FAMU. So I got a lot of connections to Tallahassee. I went there a lot when I was growing up. So it was really funny, Pop Warner games, when I was growing up, I'm 31 now. So, that was prime Florida State, Miami rivalry in the late 90s, early 2000s. And, it was crazy. We go to games and you hear score updates and everybody react to them. I had to keep my head on the game, but my dad would be in the stands full of Canes fans, having to deal with what was going on. So yeah, it was very interesting. Yeah, I don't like the University of Miami very much.
So, I kind of got ahead of myself. Fast forward so go to Averett University. Talk about after that, getting planted in North Carolina, your coaching journey from there.
Yeah, so when I got out, we played under two head coaches when we were at Averett, Coach Mike Dunleavy, and then our senior year, we got to play for Coach Adams. And when Coach Adams, came, it kind of, gave me a whole kind of renaissance on what I wanted to do with my life. And he was so instrumental early on in my coaching career and really in my life at that point, just, sharing with me a lot of things and being a mentor to me, only knowing me for a year. And he's ended up being like I guess a white whale, so to speak, throughout my coaching journey. He's always been there. So, when I got out, I graduated and my wife had moved to Charlotte in 2014 during my senior year. And then, I got a job with the YMCA. And, a lot of people see 22-year-old head coach and, they want to ask questions, how did that happen? Or, who did you know or whatever. I just was working as a fitness attendant at the YMCA, making like below minimum wage in Gaston at that time. And, there was an athletic director there by the name of Butch Blaylock, who'd been a long time head basketball coach at Hunter Huss High School, and then went on to be an AD at Highland Tech. And, he kind of got my wheels turning just about education, right? Like I was a young guy at the time. I had my degree. I could be able to get into the education field, the stability in it. And he kind of taught me into teaching and subbing. So I started subbing and I got offers to coach at a bunch of different places as an assistant and as a, strength guy or whatever. And I remember this day, I'll never forget it. I walk up to Coach Blaylock and say, I said, I've been asked to coach at all these different places. And Highland Tech at the time was one of the lowest performing football schools in the state. I think at that time, the losing streak was somewhere around 18 games or 16 games, something like that. A small 1A magnet school in Gastonia. And I asked him, I said, hey, I like to come work for you guys. And the relationship's been built here. Whatever you guys need, I love to come in and help out. And he was like, I don't have a head coach. Okay, I'll get back to you when you have a head coach. And I walked away and I started cleaning some equipment. He got done with his workout. And he said, remember that thing I was talking about being a head coach? I said, needing a head coach? I said, yeah, I'll let you know, you'll let me know when you have one and we'll get this thing rolling. He's like, are you interested? And I said, are you going to take a 20? At the time, I was 21. I said, are you going to take a 21-year-old seriously for the job? He said, I'm going to hire the best person for the job. And that stuck with me because he didn't have to tell me that. He could have let me walk away and he gave me an opportunity to shoot my shot for the interview. Now, the second thing people don't know is I was not the first hire for the job. Somebody else was hired for it, and he was going to get ready to come back and ask me if I wanted to join the staff with the guy. But he turned the job down. And at the time, it was only 3 people that put in for it in the entire interview process. And the job had been open for a pretty long time at the time. Coach Jordan had already resigned back. And I could be getting the time frame wrong, but early that year or at the end of that season, that 2014 season. And, he called me back and says, would you like to be the head coach? I'm gonna put you as a head coach in waiting tag, and Coach Jordan's gonna come back and help you out. And the rest was kind of history. That's how my coaching journey got started. And that first year, man, I credit Coach Jordan with a lot, because he was a throw you in the water and you figure out if you can swim type of dude. He was always there, but he was the head basketball coach, and he kind of took care of parents and communication for me. So I just coach ball, mowed the grass still and all that type stuff. I could really just coach ball that first year and kind of figure it out. So I always credit him for that. But that's how we got started.
You got in with jumped in with both feet. You didn't get into the assistant coaching early. You got straight into the fire, the big chair. Yeah,
I did. Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, Coach. Can you describe for our listeners a little bit like what you would categorize your offense as? Like what do you guys base out of?
Yeah, so the last 2 years we've been, I don't know if it's made up. I don't know if it's a thing. I just we've been gun single wing. So, the way what we've tried to do when we got here, the offensive coordinator I had at the time, his name was Shane Milligan. He's the head coach now at St. Paul's, I think, in South Carolina. But when I got here, I had a vision of building an offense around an athlete at quarterback, because at the time, it'd been a while, since, there's not a lot of quarterbacks coming through Concord High School. For whatever reason, that's just not what the good Lord is blessing us with right now. It's just guys that can throw the ball and have played football a lot and, have experience. But the history has shown over in 100 years of football at Concord High School, there's always been a dude. So we're going to at least always have one. History has shown that. So I wanted to install an offense that, can be centered around the quarterback and running the football. So came up with the gun single wing, where we have some wing T principles and have been, living in that, dabbling in that world. We haven't been true wing T, but we get under center some. We're in the gun a lot, utilize a lot of motion, a lot of 4x0 sets, a lot of unbalanced formations. We haven't gotten into the shift game as much. We trade, we do a lot of eye candy, and we pull guards. Sometimes we'll pull guards and go the opposite way with some things, but it allows us to have the pin last, being in gun. So that's kind of been our offense. Not been super explosive, but it's been good enough that I could honestly say and have data to prove that we don't see a lot of negative plays with how the offense is designed. It's going to go through a little bit of a change this year because our dude had been there the last 2 years. Is at Johnson C. Smith now, Keon Phillips. He's been great. But that's kind of what our offense is.
And the cool thing about that too is teams don't see that every week. So preparing for it, they got 3.5, 4 days, whatever, to prepare for that. Especially when you're talking about unbalanced sets and 4x0 sets and stuff like that. It's tough it makes them be a little bit vanilla, I'm sure, at times. So
yeah, yes, but you know what's crazy? We see something new every week. We can't traditionally go over blocking odd even because we see some stuff, man. We see bear, we see tight front, we see a variated bear where they cover the guards in 2s and 0s and 5s. Sometimes we get 3 techniques that are tilted. We'll get 6s and 9s to the tight end and wing side. We get a lot of different stuff, man. So it makes it a little tougher. And that's why I said we want to kind of be a little bit more, I guess, a little bit more open within what we do, but it's going to be what we do.
Yeah. Well, it's nice that your kids believe in it. And like you said, I know going back to Concord High School, there has always had a couple of dudes.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That was a pretty safe bet when I got the job. I said, hey, look, just have something. You may not have a quarterback, but you're gonna have somebody that can run fast, jump, and make some things happen with the ball in their hand.
Yeah. That's always about. I think sometimes people get too much in the X and O's and they forget about snapping it to the guy who can play.
That's right.
Oh yeah.
He goes as the team goes as he goes. So that's,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
sir.
I think, talking on that, I think, a lot of times, in high school too, defensively, they don't know what they're lining up in sometimes. So I think, if you're using some wing team principles, down is down is down,
That's right.
when you're kicking the first man you see, you might not know who it is, whether it's a nine, whether it's a safety.
That's right.
So I think offensively, that's good. You're able to, be consistent throughout the week. And,
Mhm.
I know I don't want to run the scout team, against you trying to rep that stuff the week before. I ain't
Yeah.
doing that.
Yes, yes, for sure. That, but as a defensive coordinator, I was at Hickory Ridge for 3 years with you. Some of the more memorable offenses, right, or Charlotte Catholic. Playing Catholic is a thing because you go back and forth about everything, right? Like, do I have a guy in C gap? And if he's in C gap, is he aggressive? Does he choke the tight end? Does he, read the tackle? Is that gonna make a difference when they run buck and you gotta have somebody in D gap? It's just, it's all those things, what type of angle linebackers take. I remember that was, out of all the teams we played, Charlotte Catholic is still the most memorable because you question yourself and a lot of people, there's people that stop it. I'm not sitting here saying that, I had the answers or I should have been or shouldn't have been questioning myself, but that offense makes you, like you said, it makes you do something different for a week and your kids got to do something different for a week. So when I got the
There,
job, I was like, I gotta install something that, put some pressure on some guys until we
the
get we
more I've
get.
been around this, the more system based offenses that you see. If it's like I've always been intrigued by a wing team. We played Charlotte Catholic one year in the playoffs, and it's kind of like if then one of those things. If this guy makes a tackle, this is what we're going to do. If we're not getting the front we want, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make you get into the front we want. And those types of offenses that are systematic and people that understand them, those are the ones that give you fits. I mean,
Yes, sir.
yeah, you're fitting wrong, or your run support guys now coming from 12 yards deep, and yeah, that's
Yes,
not fun. Not
yes,
fun at all. Yeah.
sure.
Well, and you mentioned it a little bit, changing gears, talking about some defensive stuff. And I guess, Coach, we might have to have a part two to watch some film on offensive stuff.
Oh,
I'm in.
oh yeah.
I'm in.
Sorry.
I'm in for some of it.
Yeah.
But you mentioned being the DC, at Hickory Ridge, also spend a year at Shelby. Talk about those two stints. That's obviously really good football. Obviously at Shelby,
Mhm.
Hickory Ridge has come up, doing a great job down there. You got a lot of talent in Harrisonburg.
Mhm.
So, talk to me about those two stops and then kind of, you touched on how that's kind of molded your offense, but what's that done for you in getting that Concord job and where you're at now with that?
Yeah, so Coach Ware, like I said, all the jobs that I got, they weren't conventional. So we had a snow day. I was teaching elementary PE in Cleveland County, and Coach Ware's wife at the time had done something for the school, or she has done something really nice for the school. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember driving down and thanking him for it. And he was right outside the field at the time, and he just invited me in, and there was like four of his coaches in there, and I didn't even know I was in an interview, and then he called me and was like, "Hey, I got DBs open, and would you be interested?" And at the time I was in year 3 of Holland Tech, and we had done some things, broke a long losing streak, had the first winning streak in a very long time, and we were doing some good things there. And I wanted to see that class through, but he told me, yeah, what he had um, for this year open only. So, I took that opportunity, and I was there for 2 springs, so 2 track seasons and 1 fall. I got to coach 16 football games, in 2 springs. So I grew so much in that 1 year, with really 2 years worth of football in one. And the state championship was great. That was a great team, and the coaching staff is amazing. There's three head coaches on that staff now. And Coach Ware was awesome, but just the amount of games I got to coach, for one, shaped me and helped me become a better football coach. Also, help with some doubt. When I was young, I was 22. I was putting together practice plans. I was thinking I knew what I was doing. There's some good things that came with that, because I found out I had a clue about it. Some things that, I was like, oh man, they do the same thing. Everybody does Indy. Everybody does, all that type stuff, right? But then you learn some other things, like you learn some good stuff, right? Like some stuff you didn't know how to attack the day. So fast forward from that, Coach Ware gets hired at App State. And then I reached out to Coach Wilson, because I was looking to teach and coach in the same building. That's the other thing that place taught me, was that, I love those kids so much at Shelby, that I also felt like I was cheating them by never being able to see them from 8 to 3. You only got to see them from 3 to 5. So I was yearning for that opportunity. Coach Wilson gave it to me. And that's where I grew a lot. Overall, I coached 3 sports under him. People ask me how I'm able to manage the stuff that I'm able to manage now. I'm like, try coaching 3 sports with you got 2 sports that is 120 apiece between the track program and the football program, and then throwing girls basketball with another, 25 people. You're dealing with over 250 or so kids. Now that's all, some of the kids overlap, but you're dealing with a lot of kids, and you're having to coach and mentor them and provide ministry to them. And, it really prepared me for the opportunity when Concord came open, a job that I wanted, because to me, it resembled Shelby a lot from a community aspect, a socioeconomic standpoint. And I knew that was a kid that I wanted to be able to coach and be a head coach for. On the football side of things was something that, was a challenge that I had to kind of, reinstall some things that, or implement my culture on it.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started recording about summer stuff, with all that coming up right now with this, and just going through the learning curve, and trying to figure out your kids and trying to figure out what's the best time. I know when I first got into coaching, it was like, all right, we're going to go 8 to 10, and we're going to go 4 to 6 at night. And then it's kind of changed. The kids have changed a little bit too. And I think you got to figure out, do I have early morning kids, early morning coaches? Or,
Right.
do I have afternoon guys or guys like that? And I think that's a big thing that you learn as you go through a couple programs too.
Yes, sir. For sure. I definitely learned that. Mornings have been a thing that I've done at all 3. So that's probably what I'm a morning guy. I've tried to dabble in afternoons. Honestly, I think it'd probably be best for our community if I was. But right now, our coach staff situation, you also got to do what works for your staff. And we got a lot of guys in the building, so they're on teacher schedules, so they're free in the morning. And a couple of the guys that I do have off staff, they work night shifts, so they're actually free in the morning, and they're not necessarily free in the afternoon. So we're in a good spot with us going in the mornings.
That's nice. That's nice. All right. The last question. What's and Coach Brown, this is one we talked about earlier. What's the toughest thing for you, Coach, about flipping the culture at Concord?
Yeah, so I think the toughest thing here was, not necessarily having to flip it. It was almost like a reset, because they went through a renaissance when the school lines changed and they lost some kids. Concord went from like 1,300 kids to 800 or 900 between 2 high schools being built. And the previous coach kind of went through all of that in COVID, and came out on the positive side of it. And they went 7-4 and won the conference title, and he decided to get out of coaching. But with that, it was like 28 or so seniors that left from that program on a varsity roster of about 35. So the culture was kind of gone. It was new. The JV team finished the year with like 11 kids. And then I told you it was about 6 or 7 underclassmen on varsity. So it was a brand new team. Our staff came in and had to reset a culture and set it up the way we wanted to look. So, that was the toughest part, was it all being new. And a lot of those kids being new to football, being new to competition, being new to a lot. We got a handful of guys that played on the conference championship team, but there's only maybe 3 or 4 that saw significant playing time on that team. So that year, 15 seniors, maybe 5 of them were on the team the previous year. We had 10 new seniors. We had however many new juniors and sophomores and brand new freshmen. We had a team of about 70 my first year. So it was kind of resetting the culture was tough. But it's also been fulfilling because you can build it the way, our staff wants to build it, and that's around just love. And, we got 2 things we talk about with our kids and our parents is, 1, we want to make them better human beings, and 2, we want their football experience be one they look back on and enjoy. That's before we even get into winning football games, because like I tell parents, when they, every person or community members that may come to the game and, feel like they're the better coach than me, like there's nobody that wants to win a football game more than us, right? But, those 2 things are so important to what we're doing. And I think a kid's football experience being good ties into winning games, right? But you got to do all those different things to get there. So that's kind of been the deal with that.
And doing the right things on the front end makes some of those things sweeter, even sweeter when you get them. So that's the cool thing about it. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Coach Brown, anything else you got before
No, man.
All right. Coach Shepherd, we appreciate your time tonight and appreciate your insight. I'm still going, man, a 22-year-old head coach. That's impressive. So, but I'm glad.
Now you know why, though. There's a reason why. It wasn't all.
It don't matter. Hey, it don't matter. That's fine. So,
yes, sir.
Yep. All right, guys that are listening, give Coach Shepherd a follow on X, and that's at Coach Shep, CHS. Thanks for listening to the Football Coaches Corner podcast or watching on our YouTube channel. We invite you to visit our website, which is www.footballcoachescorner.com, for some free downloads. And also, if you have questions, feel free to email us at fbcoachescorner@gmail.com or DM us on X, which is at fbcoachescorner. If you have questions about our podcast today or have any thoughts or ideas that you would like to discuss, we want to include our listeners and your thoughts and questions in helping you and helping all of us learn about programs. Our goal is to make this podcast a place where football coaches can all come and collaborate. Until next time, continue to coach with pride, passion, and a purpose. And fins up.
Yes, sir. Yeah.